And at that time, it would spend 14 weeks at the top of the charts. Only my cousin Linda would never know. Because Linda died of metastatic breast cancer 1 month after Whitney released that song. I was 16 years old, and my hero died. Her life and ultimately her death gave birth to my life's purpose, and I did the only thing I knew how to do. I became a doctor, I became a surgeon, I became the first fellowship-trained breast surgeon in Philadelphia.
Thank you so much for joining us for another awesome episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and bioenergetic practitioner, and this episode is brought to you today by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, highly effective approach to optimize wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better based life in your hands and on your wrist. But make sure to stick to the very, very end because as usual, we have an amazing giveaway you're not going to want to miss out on, but you're not going to want to miss out on one thing that my next guest has to say because she's absolutely brilliant. And what she's doing in the world of cancer and helping women out is just absolutely mind blowing. So you're going to want to stay tuned. Let's welcome Dr. Jenn Simmons. Yay! To the
Yay!
So
Yeah.
awesome to have
Although,
you.
thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I would hope that the imprint that I'm going to leave today and going forward is in the world of cancer prevention. But as I was talking about today with a group of my ladies who we get together every month and kind of have a topic that we talk about, unfortunately, and you know this better than anyone, no one deals with their health. No one thinks about their health. No one prioritizes their health until they lose their health. So most of my career, as most of your career, has been spent helping people return to health, recover their health, that kind of thing. But I really hope that my legacy is prevention.
You've already given me head to toe goosebumps because I know you're dropping the truth bombs. Like, this is going to be so much fun. I love talking with you. And it's because we're just so like-minded when it comes to prevention, right? Like, not focusing on treatment, I think is one of the biggest, drums I'm out there banging. And it was so refreshing to find a doctor who is also saying, no, 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 you need to focus on all these other things before we start talking about this stuff. But tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get started and, going from
Yeah.
surgeon into functional medicine and all that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for most people, like they think that I either lost my mind or my skills or something, because who goes from the top of their game at running a breast surgery program and running a cancer program to becoming a functional medicine doctor and like have everyone think, oh yeah, she's a quack, right? So I actually don't remember a time when I didn't know about breast cancer. It was really part of the fabric of my childhood and the tapestry of my family. There were really no women in my family, with the exception of my mother, that didn't have breast cancer. My mother had colon cancer. So it literally affected every woman in my family. And from my mother's side of the family, it's a big family. Like my grandfather was one of 13 siblings, 7 of which are women. So we're talking about a lot of people, and generation after generation continued to get breast cancer diagnoses. So when I was growing up, I had a first cousin. Her name was Linda Creed. She was a singer-songwriter in the 1970s and 1980s. She was brilliant, beautiful, larger than life, the queen of Motown sound in Philadelphia. She walked into a room and lit it up. She was my hero. And she wrote 54 hits in all. The most famous song that she wrote was The Greatest Love of All. And she wrote that song in 1977 as the title track to the movie The Greatest, starring Muhammad Ali. But it really received its acclaim in March of 1986 when Whitney Houston would release that song to the world. And at that time, it would spend 14 weeks at the top of the charts. Only my cousin Linda would never know. Because Linda died of metastatic breast cancer 1 month after Whitney released that song. I was 16 years old, and my hero died. her life and ultimately her death gave birth to my life's purpose. And I did the only thing I knew how to do. I became a doctor. I became a surgeon. I became the first fellowship trained breast surgeon in Philadelphia. Say that 5 times fast. And I did that really well for a really long time. And I did it long enough for my aunt to be diagnosed and long enough for my mother to be diagnosed. And I kind of always waited for my shoe to drop, like it was a rite of passage in my family. And about 15 years into my career, and I should say that my aunt's breast cancer diagnosis was preceded, 10 years preceded by a diagnosis of Graves' disease.
Mm.
So I'm about 15 years into my career, think that I'm invincible, running the cancer program, running the breast surgery program, and I'm a wife and a mother and an athlete and a philanthropist and a writer and all of these things. I have all of these balls in the air thinking I'm an expert juggler. And I went from being probably one of the most high functional people you've ever met to I couldn't walk across the room because I didn't have the breath in my body. And I underwent this really intensive 3-day workup. And at the end of those 3 days, found myself sitting in the office of my friend and colleague and physician. And he told me that I needed surgery and chemo, radiation, and I was going to be on lifelong medication. And believe me, I appreciated the irony. It's not as if I didn't say these things all day, every day, without hesitation or reservation. But when these words are coming at you, even if you expected them to someday come, it has an entirely different meaning. And I remember being in that office like it was yesterday, and I can transport myself there in an instant. And I'll tell you that the only thing that I could think, that voice in my head that I couldn't quiet in that time and space, was there's something more. Go find it. Now, I am a as conventionally trained physician as you can be. Went to one of the finest medical schools in this country, did a general surgery residency, did a breast oncology fellowship. Like, I am a traditionally trained doc with a traditionally trained mind. So I had no idea that there was something else. And you can call it God, you can call it universe, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I couldn't quiet that voice. There's something else, go find it. And my friend told me I was going to die. My physician said, Jen, there is nothing else. There's nothing else. You're going to die if you don't treat your disease. And it's not that I thought he was wrong. I think in that time I was like, well, just like give me some time to try to process this and figure it out. And maybe there is something else. I don't know. I keep hearing this voice, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. So I, of course, went to Dr. Google, which in my defense, in 2016,
Right.
Dr. Google was slightly more reliable. Right? Because the controlled narrative that we are suffering under now did not exist then. There was actual freedom of speech and freedom of thought then if you were looking for it, right? Until I got sick, like we talked about in the beginning, I was not looking for it, right? We're all fine until we're not. So I go on Dr. Google, and Dr. Google keeps talking about diet, 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 diet. Now, as a conventionally trained physician who wasn't overweight, I thought I knew what I needed to know about nutrition, about nourishment. You know, I mean, in medical school, we're kind of taught if we don't learn about it in medical school, it's either not true, not important, maybe both, right? So in medical school, we have 15 hours of training around nutrition. So to give you some perspective, 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residency, a year of fellowship, 10 years of training, and I had 15 hours in my first year. So like,
That's
how
criminal.
important can it be?
That's criminal.
right? It is criminal, but I only know that in the retrospectoscope.
Right.
Like in the moment when I was going through it, we thought nutrition was unimportant. Unfortunately, there are still thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of physicians, of practitioners, of providers who still think nutrition is unimportant, right? All over this country, there are cancer centers that are giving out Boost, that are giving out Ensure, that are giving out graham crackers to people undergoing chemotherapy. And people undergoing cancer treatment are told almost universally, don't lose weight,
Better.
right? Even if they're overweight, don't lose
Right.
weight. Doesn't matter what you
Yep.
eat pizza and ice cream, right? I have literally heard people being told, eat pizza and ice cream, right? So here I am. Dr. Google's telling me that I need to learn more about nutrition. Okay, I'll bite. I'm on a journey. So I sign up for this certificate course, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Now, I drove them bunkers in the sign up process. I'm a doctor. I've been a doctor for nearly 20 years. What am I really going to learn something? I mean, this course is expensive. It's time consuming. Are you sure I'm going to learn something? Yes, 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 Dr. Simmons. I can assure you that there have been lots of doctors who have come through our program and they learn a lot. Yes, 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 you will learn something. Okay. So I sign up and I'm sitting in one of the first lectures. This tall, lanky guy walks on stage, big toothy grin, introduces himself as a functional medicine physician. I'm like, "Hmm, I've been a doctor for 20 years. There's no such thing as a functional medicine physician. What is this quack talking about?" And then I remember that I'm sick and I'm there for a reason.
Mm.
So I check my ego at the door and I tune in and listen, and thank God I did. Because not only was this person going to telescope how I was going to get well, but he was going to telescope how I was going to spend the rest of my life and how I was going to create that impact that is so important to me. Because I want to change the conversation around breast cancer for everyone, not just for me, not just for my family, for everyone. And
Who
I
was
want to
that
make
tall, lanky
sure,
doctor?
oh, Dr. Mark Hyman.
Uh-huh. I was like, is it him or a Jeffrey Bland? Like I was trying to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and quite frankly, there are still people who don't know who Mark Hyman is. I can't imagine not knowing who Mark Hyman is because, as the arguable figurehead of the functional medicine movement, best-selling author, chairman of the Department of Functional Medicine at the Cleveland Clinic, frequently testifies in front of Congress, just holds a lot of really, really important positions and is very well regarded by most as a very accomplished physician, right? But in that moment, I was like, the hell are you talking about? And then he spoke about this concept that changed my life, that changed my world. Because what he spoke about was the fact that as a conventional physician, especially in the cancer space, we are focused almost entirely on the wrong thing. All of our focus in the cancer space is on the tumor. And never, ever do we consider that the tumor is not the problem. The tumor is the symptom of the problem. And unless you look deeper, unless you back up 10 steps and figure out why that tumor is there, you're never going to change the trajectory of that person's health, ever. Right? You can do a surgery like I did and remove the tumor, but you are not fundamentally changing their health. You're taking them from one place to another without changing the direction they're on. And so you may slow down their timeline, right? It may take years for that tumor to recur, or maybe they'll just get the next manifestation of the illness, right? Because most women who get breast cancer actually don't die of breast cancer. Interestingly enough, most women who get breast cancer die of cardiovascular disease, which is the number one threat to a woman in every decade of her life past the age of 30, exponentially more of a threat to life. And it's because it's the same core, it's the same root cause. It's this chronic inflammation, this concept of chronic inflammation, and all the things that lead to chronic inflammation that lead to the manifestation of disease. And so this concept was never, ever talked about in all of that higher education that I had. In those 10 years that I spent buried in a textbook or buried in an operating room, never did we talk about the why. Never. And when people would ask me, why did I get breast cancer? I gave the response that I was trying to give, right? It's multifactorial, nothing that you can do. But we have so much more control than we think, and we have so much more control than we were led to believe. But you have to want that control. You have to want that position because the only person that can heal you is you.
Absolutely. And on that note, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but we're going to hit more into the why, right? As she alluded, why did we get cancer? Where did the tumors come from? And then she's also has got some awesome news about a real health collaborative coming up that we're going to dive into more. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my favorite and probably my most impactful frequency that I use on the Nikki. If you've never seen this before, it looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device with a bunch of different frequencies. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm, and it pretty much makes an immediate difference. But my personal favorite frequency is the insomnia one. If you know me, you know I don't sleep at night. I'm known for like those middle of the night texts and random thoughts, and I have been that way my whole life, not just since I got sick with tick-borne illness. But the Nikki nighttime and or insomnia frequency is basically programmed to work with your body's natural resources to get you to go to sleep and get you set for nighttime. It helps with cellular repair and detoxification overnight, which is super, super important for everyone, but especially with people with Lyme and tick-borne illness like me. So I just wanted to kind of demystify it and share a little bit about it. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Bye.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. We are Nikki.com.
For someone thinking of purchasing a device, what advice would you give them?
Do it. Just do it. It's I really have explored so many between essential oils. I mean, much of what the speakers said tonight, I've it's been my journey through the years. This is by far the quickest, the most painless. It's just really, for me, it was a synchronistic meeting, and I ended up being blessed with the device. So I feel that, universe is saying, we want you around for a while.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. We are Nikki.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Have you been on the edge of your seats like I have this whole time? I've interviewed her before, and there was a couple stories in the beginning that I've never heard before, and she came this close to making me cry. But man, what a beautiful, beautiful story. And, that pain to purpose is what drives a lot of us to get into this, alternative lifestyle because it's still, kind of on the edge fringe, and we're getting it more and more mainstream, thank God. But yeah, so tell us a little bit more about the why. Why do we get cancer, Dr. Jenn? And, tell us a little bit about your Real Health Collaborative.
Yeah. So I do want to say that I think there's no alternative to this lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like people talk about this being alternative medicine, but to me, this is always the end. Like, if you want to go ahead and use conventional methods, I think that there's a time and a place. I have no objection to most of the things in the right context. However, this is always, always, always the end. Because if you're going to do surgery, you should do surgery and you should be thinking about all the things that we're thinking about. Because again, you have to get to your why. If you don't get to your why, then what is stopping the tumor from coming back? What is stopping progression of the tumor? And what is stopping the next manifestation of disease? So I am always, always, always thinking about the why and making sure that at the same time, because you're going to want to get rid of the things that are not serving you, give yourself the things that you need. But at the same time, we're always going to be concerned about creating that foundation of health, putting in those pillars that we know drive health. The right nourishing diet for you, movement, prioritizing sleep, detoxification, getting rid of the toxins, taking the trash out, right? We're always thinking about this. We're thinking about purpose-driven living. We're thinking about all of these pillars, these foundations of health. And then we are certainly thinking about the causes because we do need to eliminate those things, those roadblocks that are preventing us from having our best health. But I always want to think about creating health, right? We're not so much fighting disease because I don't believe in even using that kind of language. We've fought enough. Life is hard enough. What we want to think about ultimately is driving health, pursuing health, building health. And we want to create an environment that fosters joy, happiness, healing, right? So I don't think about fighting cancer because I think that that's very bad language. And I think it is creating an atmosphere that doesn't really foster health. But when we think about the causes of breast cancer, I think about things like chronic inflammation from your diet, like processed foods, chemical laden foods, but it can even be foods that are, I mean, obviously there are frankenfoods. There are things that are not food at all that are being consumed. Oreos are not food. Cheetos are not food. Doritos are not food. These things have no place at all in the diet. And then, there are foods that are in some areas considered to be beneficial, like whole grains. I'll give you the example of that, where people think they have fiber and they have some vitamins. The truth is that from my perspective, I don't believe in putting anything in the body that ultimately we don't need. And we have no nutritional need for grains. So I advocate for a
Wait.
grain-free
Say
diet.
that louder for the people in the back.
Yeah, yeah. So we have no nutritional need for grains. And if we never ate another grain again, ever, we would suffer no nutritional deficiency. So I don't believe in putting things in our body that we don't ever need. Right now, am I saying that you're never going to have another piece of birthday cake again? No, of course not. I mean, we still have to live within the confines of society, and I still want there to be celebratory eating. But remember that your birthday is once a year. And for what it's worth, I had my birthday this year, didn't have any cake, and I did just fine. So it is possible, it is doable. So chronic inflammation from the diet, processed foods are very, very inflammatory. And here's some other things that are inflammatory that people don't necessarily think about. Sedentary lifestyle. Sedentary lifestyle, when you're not moving and you're not oxygenating your cells, cancer hates oxygen. But if you're sedentary, you're in a pretty low oxygen state, right? Or we all, even though we're modern beings, we're living on a very old gene code, and we really only know two states. We know safety and we know danger. And we are not able to discern what the danger is. So to us, we get the same danger signal from traffic as we do from a saber-tooth tiger. So everything around us that feels stressful feels like a saber-tooth tiger. And when we are confronted with danger, our chemistry shifts from the chemistry of joy to the chemistry of stress. And the main chemical that dominates, the main hormone that dominates that state, that's cortisol. So it's fine if you have a whole bunch of cortisol and you run away from a saber-tooth tiger. But what if you have a whole bunch of cortisol because you're sitting at your desk because you're on deadline? Right? Then your cells are just bathing there in the cortisol and you're not getting rid of it. And it is wreaking havoc on your hormonal system and creating all kinds of metabolic derangements that do not support long term health. So, sedentary lifestyle is a problem. So too is overexercise, right? We were meant to run away from a saber-tooth tiger, but not for 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years, right? But if you're a long distance runner, if you're a marathon runner, if you are, your body only sees that you're running away from a saber-tooth tiger like all the time. It's too stressful. It's too stressful, and you're filling your body with that chemistry of stress instead of with the chemistry of joy. And it has long term ramifications. Radiation exposure is a huge issue, and I talk about that a lot. And with regard to radiation exposure, one thing can be repeated mammograms. Now, is one mammogram going to hurt you? No. But who has one mammogram? Mammograms are given repeatedly over a woman's life, and most women are starting at 40 and ending at 70 or 80 or 90. That's a lot of mammograms. And the more mammograms you have over your life, the higher your risk is of getting breast cancer. The more mammograms you have over your life, the greater the chance is that you're going to get breast cancer. So I am pretty famous for saying that I don't think anyone ever needs another screening mammogram. Diagnostic mammograms are a different story. If you have a problem in your breast, that is still the gold standard workup and you need a workup, right? So you kind of can't fight City Hall on that one, right? But that's a diagnostic study. That's one mammogram, right? So that is far different than going every year. And some people, it's more than once a year for a mammogram. X-rays, radiation in childhood. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that we get exposed to radiation, but I do want to say one thing about radiation, because oftentimes the response to when I tell people that mammograms are not safe is, well, it's the same amount of radiation that you get on a cross-country flight, and you don't tell people not to travel, do you? There is a great big ocean of difference between the scattered radiation that you get on an airplane and the focused cone down radiation that you get during a mammogram. These are not the same, and they should not be confused as the same. Okay. So radiation that is cone down, that is directed directly at the breast, is far more damaging. Then we think about sources of chronic inflammation like chronic disease, obesity, diabetes, thyroid disease, celiac, inflammatory bowel disease, MS. These are all chronic inflammatory states that if we don't deal with them in that way, then they will progress and can progress to be breast cancer. Chronic infections like viruses, fungus, mold, Lyme, parasites, bacteria, things that are ubiquitous, that are always there, that an intact immune system can handle. But we live in a world where we are so immune challenged that our immune systems are not able to handle it, and it leads to chronic inflammation, which can lead to a breast cancer diagnosis. Heavy metals, which we find in our drinking water, in dental amalgams, in food, in cosmetics. And oftentimes that is an invisible ingredient, but we need to be aware of it so that we can avoid it. Chemical exposures like plastics and pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and preservatives, things that we can avoid. We can't avoid all of them. Obviously, we can't avoid all of them, and many of them are consumed unknowingly, but we can opt to not drink out of plastic, to not heat in plastic, to not store in plastic, to not use nonstick pans, to not to use organic products and eat organic food and not use so many processed foods that are, laden with preservatives and things like that. Chronic antibiotic use is another thing. So, and even if you're not taking the antibiotics, remember that 60 to 70% of the antibiotics in our society are given to the animals that you are consuming.
Yeah, so making sure that always have clean sources of protein that you're eating from is always a must. But for those of our regular listeners, like, could you tell how many different frequencies from the Nikki that she was kind of talking about? So that's one of the reasons why I love that product so much, is because it's a toolbox that can be a preventative for you fill in the blank, right? It's not specific. We came out for helping out with a lot of Lyme and mold, but it really is a foundational tool for helping, overcome all these inflammatory diseases. So you've given us so many amazing nuggets on this show. Just amazing. Thank you. You're such a giver. But tell us a little bit about your Real Health Collaborative. What's that all about?
Yeah. So I really wanted to give people who wanted to pursue their health either to prevent a breast cancer diagnosis. And this is for someone who maybe comes from a high risk family like mine. Maybe they have a BRCA mutation. Maybe they just are what I call the worried well. They've had a bunch of biopsies that have all been negative, but still they're concerned about breast cancer. Or you've had a breast cancer diagnosis, you're finished treatment, and you're wondering now what, right? You don't want to spend the rest of your life waiting for the shoe to drop. So I formed this beautiful community called the Breast Health Collaborative, the Real Health Collaborative, where we have women who want to be a part of a community that is supporting one another, but they get access to me. They get access to my videos every month. They have a live Q&A with me every month, and they have access to all kinds of checklists and guides. And we have a challenge going every month where every month we are pushing each other to become healthier, to become a better version of ourselves. And we are always, always looking to stay on that journey with direction and purpose towards our best selves, because you never really arrive, right? Health is a journey, and it's often not a linear journey, but that when you are with a group of people, you can really, really go far together.
Absolutely. And where would people go to find more information
So
about this?
just head over to realhealthmd.com. And as long as you're on my email list, and you can sign up to be on my email list there, as long as you're on my email list, you're going to hear all about it.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Thank you so much. And we also want to say, while you're at it, make sure to visit wearenikki.com/podcast and enter in BioBeats for 10% off. And because we love our customers so much, one of the ways we show appreciation is we give away a free Nikki device with a wellness suite of frequencies on every show. It's a $598 value. So make sure to go to the show notes to find Dr. Jenn and her next course, and then figure out how to sign up to win your Nikki. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to have a healthy day. Bye.
Bye.
The very first day that I wore the device, I slept through the night, which is amazing.
It looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm, and it pretty much makes an immediate difference.
So there's like a sleep mode. When I go mountain biking, I throw it on an energy booster. Once I'm done mountain biking, I actually switch it to the other mode they have, is pain and relief.
When I'm in a stressful situation and I put it on, it helps me almost immediately. I immediately feel calmer, whether that's a frequency or me knowing that it's working or knowing that it's helping in addition to that.
One of my buddies was like, do not discount this. This is an amazing device. You've got to give it a chance.
It's got so many options. I'm just going to go over, it's like a menu that you can choose. It's so easy to use. You just click on what you like. For example, it's got travel, pain relief, energy boost, allergies.
I really, really love this device. In fact, I have two of them because when one is charging, I want to wear the other because I'm never without it.
It will never give you something where your body doesn't need and it is not natural. That's what I love about the device.
Put it on focus, maybe halfway through the day as I was losing focus. And within about 10 minutes of turning on, I feel like my brain is just like, I'm connected. Like, wow.
Trying all the frequencies and I love it. The one I'm using right now out on my walk is Energy. It just energizes me. And I'm finding that I've got more stamina and more energy than I thought I would.
My Nikki helps me sleep better at night and helps me feel less stressed.
I really been enjoying it. So I've noticed my energy's been up. I've been sleeping better.
So the Nikki is one price, and then you pay for the frequency sets separately. So you can get the wellness one, which is awesome. I really do love the new Lyme frequencies so much. It's incredible.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. We are Nikki.com. There's a new word for wellness, Nikki. Nikki, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. Nikki is about helping you do better. Touch the Nikki screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. We are Nikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Freemedica. Freemedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.